look at what we have here. The Volkswagen GTI, the Subaru WRX, and this, the Hyundai Elantra N. Now these are all new for 2022. They have similar horsepower and they are very similarly priced. Now they may look like everyday regular sedans, but the fact is these are performance models. So they've been upgraded for better acceleration, better handling, and hopefully anyway, better sound too. So we could get super in-depth about the interiors and the technology and the fuel economy, blah, blah, blah. How fun are they? That's what you want to know, right? That's what I want to know. And lucky for me, we've got an autocross course set up right behind me where we can toss these things around. And even better, we'll also set a time for each one. Oh yeah, you're in for a good time today. But hey, while we finish getting these cones set up, why don't you go ahead and click like and hit the subscribe button to see more Edmunds videos just like this one. If you want to get a cash offer on your car right now, go to edmunds.com/sellmycar. Seriously, cash offer. Okay, let's talk about the Volkswagen GTI, and just a note, I want to do this quickly so that I can get behind the wheel of this thing. But the first thing that you should know is that Volkswagen actually no longer sells the Golf. That's the standard version of this. For 2022, the only one you can get is the GTI. And you can tell you got the GTI because of some cool red badging up here and on the front and in the back. No one is going to think that you're in a Golf. Now, otherwise, there's 241 horsepower under the hood, and to go along with that, you've got pretty big 13-inch brakes up there, 19-inch wheels, and it's wrapped in very skinny rubber band tires. Let's see how that matters with grip when we get out onto the track. Obviously, this is a very, very bright, loud, neon color. How do I feel about it? I think it works on the car. It's not my choice, but too many cars are white and gray and silver right now anyway, so more color, the better. This is also the only hatchback we have here today, which lends the GTI a little bit of extra character, makes it stand out, especially for a performance car. Now let's get inside. All right. So the cabin is pretty standard stuff here for a GTI. Volkswagen keeps it fresh with cool angles and panels and this honeycomb pattern that stretches all the way from side to side. So it doesn't feel bland in here at all. The standard screen on the GTI is 8.25 inches, and this one comes with an optional 10-inch screen. Now, one thing that I like about that is that the panel that houses it also stretches across in front of the driver. It makes it look like one big screen unit. And the driver information display in front has some pretty splashy graphics and animation, which feels like I'm getting an extra present when it gives me information. It's also really spacious in here. Like, there's a lot of room to move around and get comfortable and find a good driving position, which is obviously very important. And then one thing that I want to mention is these seats, which are much more cushy than I expected. They don't feel like performance buckets or super hardcore or anything like that. So the GTI definitely gets an A in ergonomics, but one hang up is the controls. There are no buttons. Even the buttons aren't really buttons. Everything's touch capacitive or done through the touchscreen, and you just run the risk of having issues with responsiveness or glitching. We downgrade other automakers when they do that, and we're gonna knock points off of Volkswagen as well. But maybe the GTI can make it up on the track. Let's go race this thing. It is time to drive. So on the GTI, the 6-speed manual does not have launch control. So instead, what I'm going to do is turn off stability control all the way, and then build the revs up to about 4,000 where the GTI has max torque, let the clutch go, and take off. Let's see what happens.
Countdown in 3, 2, 1, go!
Let's go. Oh, quick. Oh, love the steering. Okay, on the brakes, nice. Oh, you can feel the limited slip bringing it around. That was awesome. Okay, brake for the turn, brake for the turn. Tight, tight, and back on. Okay, slalom. Stay quick, steering, don't let me down. Back on. Nice, nice. Little slide action. Back on the steering. Back on the power. Oh, nice and quick. We are moving. We are moving. And all the way around. Let's go. Woo! That was fun. The steering is very quick, very responsive. The power, you can just stab the throttle, you can touch it. It responds very, very fast.
You got 56.15.
I would love a little bit more power just to like really muscle out of some of those corners. But all in all, I mean, it felt light, felt compact, agile, really a lot of fun. Can't wait to see how the others do. Now for the Subaru WRX, the Rally King. And whatever the polar opposite of conservative is, that's how we would describe the styling going on here. Whether you're talking about the giant hood scoop or the pretty wide fenders or the lip spoiler there on the back, this is meant to stand out. It's the whole point of the WRX. And also, special note for this classic Subaru blue, which is just chef's kiss. One thing to know is that there's a little extra tire on here compared to the GTI. These are 245 width, so we'll see if it makes a difference out there. But there are also 12.4-inch brakes in the front. That's the smallest in the group. And then of course, surrounding that is this big plastic cladding with these cool strakes for extra speed. Now, there's a lot of controversy about that. A lot of people don't like them, but those people probably aren't driving through dirt and gravel sideways, so who cares what they think? Overall, the WRX is meant to stand out, and that's exactly what it does. One key difference is that this is the only car we have today with all-wheel drive, and it's the only car with a center differential. We'll see if it makes a difference in the turns, but for sure it makes a difference in terms of weight. Depending on the trim, the WRX is about 200 pounds heavier than the other two cars. But let's see what it's like on the inside. Now, for the interior of the WRX. I call it hard plastic chic. There's a lot of areas that don't feel all that nice to the touch, and they feel kind of cheap compared to something like the GTI. Now, to be honest, this is an improvement over the previous generation WRX, so keep that in mind. And though they are few, there are more actual buttons in here than in the GTI. The touchscreen in here is 11.6 inches and it's vertical tablet style. Again, there's just not as much functionality, there's not as much snazziness as in the GTI. Otherwise, there is plenty of room in here, and it's just like the GTI, easy to get comfortable and find a nice position. These seats are kind of a suede material and they do feel more sporty, like they're holding me in place. I think that's probably for when you're drifting around an apex, and that's pretty nice. The final thing I want to point out is the manual transmission. The WRX is going to be available with a CVT automatic, especially on the new high-end GT trim, but for now, because of shortage issues, every WRX gets the 6-speed manual. Overall, if I had to give it a grade, I'd give it C+, maybe? It's just not jumping out to me. It's gonna have to do really well on the track to make up for this, so let's hit it. WRX time. So, again, a 6-speed manual. There's no sport mode, there's no launch control. What I can do is turn off traction control down here. That turns on this green little track button in here, and hopefully that will propel us to victory. So let's see how it does.
Race in 3, 2, 1, go!
Come on, all-wheel drive. Whoa, that was violent. Shifts are not as smooth as the GTI for sure, but it got going quick, definitely. Okay, more power for sure. Oh, a lot of understeer, but the back came around eventually. Okay, hard on the brakes. Oh, not as much brakes either. I had to brake almost to a stop. Okay, here we go. Slalom again. Be quicker, be quicker. Steering is definitely not as quick as the GTI. And let's hit this apex. Yeah, just understeers just enough. This is gonna be tough. I don't think it's gonna beat the GTI, but we'll see. Let's go across the line. Whew. Whew. Well, that was fun. It was definitely eventful. I don't know how quick it was. We'll have to wait and see. But it was definitely entertaining. There's a lot going on here. I think the big difference is the steering. Like it's nowhere near as responsive and precise as the GTI is. And maybe that's what you want if you're like on sloppy terrain and tossing it around and having a good time, digging yourself out of gravel. You know, that sounds like a blast. But out here, definitely lacked some grip and some precision for sure. But the speed was a lot of fun. Off the line, it was, I'm pretty sure quicker than the GTI. And that's gotta be that all-wheel drive giving you better traction when you launch. And then I think just more power overall helped pull it out of some of that stuff where the steering and handling wasn't really up to par with the GTI. Overall, pretty fun ride.
So your last race, you got 56.15. On this race, you got 56.69.
Whoa. Wow. I'm surprised. It didn't feel anywhere near as fast.
Really?
Yeah. If you're like me, you heard that Hyundai was making the Elantra N and you thought, are they really serious? But then you see stuff like this red accent on the front, shark teeth front grille, a pretty big rear wing, and you realize, okay, not only are they serious, they're maybe a little too serious. Like, we get it, okay, it's worth a shot. But one of the things that stands out about the Elantra N is, first of all, the power, 276 horses under the hood. And then just like the GTI, there's an electronic limited slip differential that sends power to whichever one of the front wheels needs it most. Now, just like the GTI, it's front wheel drive, so that means it's pretty similar in terms of weight, which is gonna make it lighter than the WRX, a big advantage out here. It's also got the same width tires as the WRX, but the biggest brakes of the bunch at 14 plus inches. Hyundai's not playing around. So Hyundai is clearly taking a risk here, but the reason they're doing that is because the Elantra on which this is based has no racing pedigree whatsoever, really no performance pedigree whatsoever. In order to make it seem like they're serious about this, they almost had to go 100 miles an hour on the styling. So does it work? Well, it definitely looks the part, and that's at least half the battle. Let's see what it's like inside. Elantra N Interior. Let's dive in. First, let's talk materials. Now, there is quite a bit of hard plastic in here, but it's disguised much more than it was in the WRX. And the points that you're touching are really soft and feel very nice. So that helps cover it up. Up front, the center touchscreen is 10.25 inches and it's connected on one panel to this driver information display, which is also very cool because like the GTI, there are neat, colorful animations, but the graphics in the Elantra N take it a step further, which just helps enhance it and feel a little bit more special in here. Also, hey, buttons. There's buttons everywhere, real buttons. It's awesome. I can just push them and they do the thing they're supposed to do. It's so great. I really enjoy that. And speaking of buttons, up on the steering wheel, there are some really colorful buttons. N, that changes your drive mode. This other N, which skips straight to the most aggressive race setting. And then this bright red NGS, that stands for N grin shift. And it gives you an extra 10 horsepower for up to 20 seconds. So that gives a maximum of 286 horsepower, which is easily the best that we have here. Cool function. Yes, the interior colors and design is a little bit shouty, but it also just makes sense. So I'm not complaining. Otherwise, ergonomically, just like the other two, there's plenty of space in here, very easy to find a good driving position. And then the seats, these are the most aggressive seats of the three that we have so far. The bolstering comes right up to the side, so it's gonna hold you in place. And there's a nice mix of leather materials and some kind of suede-like material. Not sure if it's real or not, but all in all, this is my favorite of the bunch, for sure. The real question is, how does it do against the other two through the cones? Let's find out. Finally, it's Elantra N time, so let's see how it stacks up against the other two cars. Now, this one is not a manual, it's a dual clutch automatic transmission, and so it does have launch control. And you activate that by pressing this big red N button, turning stability control into sport or off, going into the N mode menu, selecting launch control, and then picking the RPM that you want to launch at. And then you basically stomp both pedals, come off the brake, and you're off. Is that an unfair advantage over the other two that didn't have launch control? Maybe. Let's see how the times play out. But if you want to see how a manual Elantra N stacks up against a manual WRX, check out our U-Drags episode between those two to see how that played out.
Ryan, are you ready to race?
Let's do it.
Race in 3, 2, 1, go!
Ooh, okay. A lot of pops and bangs off the start there. Okay, steering's way heavier. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just something I noticed off the bat. Oh, we're out of there quick. We're out of that turn quick. Oh, this is the fastest of the three, there's no doubt about it. Okay, here, can I get out of this fast? Back on the straight. I think this is a lot quicker. Let's see. Nice turn in. The differential's bringing the car around nicely. Need to get on the brakes hard here. On the brakes. Oh yeah, okay. And get across the line, get across the line. There we go. Woo! Well, that was something. The steering, the heaviness of it makes it direct and responsive. It is just as quick as the GTI, especially when you need to power out of something or dive into a corner around a cone.
First race, you got 56.5.
Uh-huh.
Second race, you got 56.69.
Uh-huh.
The Elantra N came in at a whopping 54.84.
Wow.
Winner, chicken dinner, Elantra N.
So a second and a half ahead of GTI, almost 2 seconds ahead of WRX. Whew, that's booking. So what did we learn today? Well, we learned that the car that has the most horsepower is probably gonna go the fastest. Imagine that. But most importantly, we learned how these three stack up against one another. We learned that the WRX still has an attack mentality. It's just probably a bit too heavy and sloppy for our track here. We also learned that it's hard to find fault in the GTI, even though it's mostly just a polished up version of the old one. And we learned that Hyundai is not messing around with the Elantra N, which sure feels like the sharpest and most serious performance car here. So in this comparison of affordable compact performance cars, my personal choice is the Volkswagen GTI. It's fun as all get out. The WRX just kind of failed to excite in the way that we hoped it would. And while the Elantra N is the best performance bang for your buck, the styling is just a little bit too out there for me. But I do think everyone should test drive one basically as soon as possible. Hyundai officially has our attention. And if you're looking for something that grabs your attention while being a sensible daily driver at the same time, it's the Volkswagen GTI that deserves the closest look. Hey, you're still here. Great. While you're there, click like and hit subscribe to see more Edmunds videos just like this one. Okay, now you can go.